Time for world politics, and I've got the superstar of the show with me today, and everything like that. None other than Steve Rao. I'm going to bring him in, see what he's got on his mind. I did see that there was a gentleman that is challenging Elon Musk to donate a bulk of his money to the world and everything like that. So that's a story that I ran across and everything like that. I'm going to see if I can find out more about this person that basically wants him to donate like $1 trillion or something crazy like that. But definitely it was something that I just saw as I was going through the news items and all along those lines. And I'll try to see if I can get some more details. But how are you doing? It looks like Trump is complaining that E. Jane Carroll did a bait and switch by putting her money in a retirement account. And a Nobel economist has challenged Elon Musk to donate his entire $1 trillion fortune. So it was a Nobel economist that was making this challenge to Elon Musk and everything. And he's asking him to do it by 2036. Musk replies is actually, I'm going to actually do something along these lines. So he's claiming he's going to actually do something along these lines, even though it was the economist that challenged him. So the public has long questioned the world's richest man, Elon Musk, about what he's doing sitting on $1 trillion fortune. After all, other billionaires gave away vast amounts of their wealth. Take Mackenzie Scott, who donated more than $26 billion and is still worth nearly $35 billion. On social media, some have begged and pleaded for him to at least give some of his wealth away and even all of it. But Musk has been pretty direct about his relation with philanthropy. He says, I agree with love of humanity, and I think we should try to do things that help our fellow human beings. That's what Musk told Nicole Kamath for the WTF podcast in an episode published back in December of last year. That's an interesting conception for a person who believes money won't matter anymore because of AI. So Nobel Prize winning economist Darren Ace Maglo called Musk out for it on Monday. A proposed pledge for Elon Musk, wrote Asmoglo in an X post on Monday. An opportunity to put your money where your mouth is. If the money won't matter in 2036, why don't you pledge to donate your current wealth of approximately $1 trillion to charity no later than 2036? This would establish with great credibility your belief in the power of AI and technology. So it looks like he's been challenged, and he's saying that he's thinking about it and everything like that. Because he also argued with Assad people around the world who are concerned about the political and social power of billionaires and trillionaires. The charities choosing for this should be approved as effective and non-ideological by an impartial body, is what this economist is saying. So it looks like Musk is thinking about it because he's saying that while Musk just didn't elaborate on what this means, it's a complete 180 of how the Tesla and Space CEO has historically approached philanthropy. He's also been openly critical of other major philanthropists like Scott, having recently said her efforts make the world worse off. As in somewhat of a shocking response, Musk replied to Ace Maglo and said, I'm actually going to do something along these lines. So we'll see whether he actually does it or doesn't do it. But it does look like there are some folks that are trying to get Elon to get up off of that, some of that money, maybe even all of the money. So, what is your thoughts about this notion of Elon Musk possibly thinking about getting rid of his $1 trillion and maybe making donations to charity?
Well, I think it's great, and thank you for having me on the show again, Mark, today. And I was going to open up today, but I'll
Yeah,
give
go ahead and
outline.
open up. I just
No,
brought that
that's
up.
okay. No, I'll give an outline. We can have an informal discussion. I got to leave early today, but moving forward, I'm going to try the best I can to be opening the monologue on the show starting next week. So it's just a practice. But what I will say, first of all, I just let me answer your question. I'm going to open up the show in terms of outlining what I'd like us to talk about over the next few weeks. Um, for those of you joining, I am Steve Rao, the co-host of World Politics on Roku TV, soon to be a part of Fox News Network, and we're honored today to be here. And first, let me just open up, and then I'll answer the question. But we want to thank all of you for joining World Politics. This show is going to be talking about the stories throughout the world, from Europe to the Middle East, from Asia to Washington, D.C., to the leaders who are leading or trying to lead, and their decisions that they're making and the consequences for the world. Personally, as a son of immigrants and someone who has spent my career working in public service and technology and international business, I've always been positive about America's greatest strength. And as David M. Walker, an analyst on the show, often says, economic power, political power, military power, and cultural influence are the four determinants of a superpower. And so we want to examine on the show the multiple wars we have going on in Ukraine, in the Middle East, in Iran, the broader implications on the world and the United States of America foreign policy? What are the strategic opportunities for the United States and China? Are there any? Or is it just competition? Who will new superpowers of our world be, or will there be any? And at a time when the headlines can feel overwhelming for all of us, our goal is simple on this network to have a conversation, not hiding behind Facebook posts and tweets, but to talk at a macro level. Today, I had the honor of being with Sasha Starr on the Ukraine show, and we had a wonderful conversation about Ukraine and the United States and everything. So that's where politics today. The world is more interconnected than ever before, and we need to make sure that we're doing what we can to have a conversation. I'll end with this. History reminds us that America has always been strongest when we combine our ideals with our innovation and our willingness to lead alongside our allies. This is the fundamental question today of the presidency of Donald Trump. Are we doing that? The future is going to belong to all the nations of the world, and we have to embrace all of the challenges responsibly and work as one world. And I often think of what the famous astronomer Neil deGrasse Tyson said, that he wished every world leader could go to the moon, because when they came back, they would look at the world a lot differently. So that's the perspective I want to bring. But real quickly, before we hand it over to Sasha to talk about some of these issues, I will say that I think it's good if Elon Musk does want to give money to charity. We have Bill Gates doing that. We have Warren Buffett doing that. There's only so much you can do with trillions of dollars. I mean, the man probably controls 2 to 3% of the GDP if you take him and others along their line. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens, right? So
anyway. By the way, your potential presidential candidate was in the news because he has a stern message to Mitch McConnell. So Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear has sent a message to Senator Mitch McConnell. Either the state senior senator should explain his long absence from the Senate and give details about his health, or resign. So apparently he sent a new blunt letter on yesterday to McConnell, the former Senate Majority Leader, who hasn't been seen in public for 43 days since being hospitalized, suggesting that the Democratic governor doubts that the photos, another of which was released earlier on Monday, show an honest portrayal of the senator's health. So he says, I'm addressing this letter to Senator McConnell under the assumption that he is capable of reading and responding verbally and not incapacitated by means of consciousness or cognition. If the senator is unable to respond for either of those or other conditions, consider this a letter, a demand for his Senate staff to be honest and transparent with the people of Kentucky. He wrote in a letter written on state government letterhead and obtained by CNN. So McConnell's office released a statement earlier on Monday in which McConnell says he wants to get back out in Kentucky, but is not yet medically cleared to leave a rehab facility. His statements included an update from the Office of the Attending Physician, which serves the medical needs of members of Congress. So there's a lot of people that are still wondering that his state of health, and Governor Beshear is calling him out on it and everything like that. So I know that you're thinking that he's a strong presidential candidate, Mr. Beshear, and everything like that. So what is your notion of this idea that maybe McConnell isn't well enough to even be serving?
I think that's evident. These senators shouldn't be running when they're 80, 82, 84 years old. I mean, Ed Markey from, I can't remember what state. He's a Massachusetts. He's 82 years old. I mean, come on, man. It's time to let someone new come in. And so that's what I think. Sasha, what do you think about this?
Well, I don't want to talk about this particular senator or the other senator or so on. It's for people to decide who they want to see in power. I'm surprised at a phenomena of people who are deprived of all the life's necessity. And those people include not just Democrats, they include a lot of Republicans. A lot of Republicans are suffering because of this catastrophic ruling of Donald Trump. And they are, instead of fighting to improve their conditions, they are supporting Republicans fighting Democrats. It's hilarious. It's absolutely incredible why people don't understand who are the real enemies. The real enemies are people in power right now, this clique, the cabinet of Donald Trump, who are running incredible debt of 40-some trillion dollars, and it's growing, and they need now the new interceptors for Patriots. Okay, build 100,000 interceptors, million, 5 million interceptors. So, so your national debt will going from 40 trillions to 45 trillion dollars, and you will pay so much interest on this debt or so on. Does it? Then you use all these interceptors in a war, either with Iran or you'll find somebody else to fight, and so on. Is life of American people, both Democrats and Republicans, is becoming better for that? Show
Yep.
me how.
Absolutely. Well, in the short time I'm with us today, and how long is the show, Mark? Is it 30 minutes or an hour? I forgot.
It varies, but it'll probably be somewhere between 30 minutes to 45 minutes on this particular show. So just
Okay.
think of
Well, let's Sasha, great points, and let's start with the first segment of the show. I want to talk about Ukraine today,
Okay.
and I want to start with Sasha's perspective, and then give Mark's perspective. And why is Ukraine important to U.S. national security?
That's a very interesting situation because uh, um, I'm commenting twice a week for the last 4 years, if not more, since the war started. And I think today is a pivotal point because today is a visit of Zelensky to United States, meeting with Trump. And I don't have the most recent information about it, but I will have it by the end of the day and of course tomorrow.
Yeah.
What's happening is that, look, Trump, he admires wealth and power. So a year and a half ago, he told to Zelensky, you have no cards. You are fighting the mightiest country in the world, the big Russia. You're going to lose. Give them everything, whatever they're demanding, and so on. All of a sudden, situation changed, and Ukraine became the major military power in the world. That's what's happening right now. Russia is being defeated. So all the great NATO and United States and whoever else couldn't do nothing against Russia for the last 55, 60 years. Ukraine did it. So now all of a sudden,
Let me
change of directions. Now he wants to be a friend with Zelensky.
Mark, what do you? Yeah, that's a great point. Mark, what do you think this means for? Following up on what Sasha said, what do you think this means for the future of warfare? I mean, the drones, the technology, is it sending a message?
I mean, drones is definitely a major change in the way that wars are fought. I mean, we're seeing that not just in Ukraine, but we're also seeing that in Israel and even other parts of the world as well. So there's no doubt that it has definitely changed the nature of warfare. And a lot of times, some new technology or something that will come around will change warfare. I mean, there was a time that ships changed the nature of warfare and all along those lines, and even the time that torpedoes changed the nature of warfare. So warfare has oftentimes been changed by innovation and all along those lines. And Sasha is a military veteran, but he is also a military historian. I think that's a fair way to describe you and everything, Sasha. So he can definitely say that there have been various innovations that have changed the nature of wars throughout history. I would actually argue, and I don't know if Sasha would agree with me, but I remember hearing about the power of Ukraine many years ago, because Ukraine has oftentimes had many great athletes that were boxers. I mean, there was even some Olympic athletes that were Ukrainian from what I remember. And like I said, I don't remember all of my sports history and everything like that, but I would say that Ukraine has always had a strong presence and has always been a group of individuals that were definitely mighty, and probably more mightier than people gave them credit for. Because I know that it's part of the Ukrainian force, and Sasha, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was part of the greater Soviet Union. There were even some Ukrainian soldiers that were part of that. But I do remember even some of the great Russian boxers of the Olympics being of Ukrainian descent and everything like that. And there were some great champions, if I remember it correctly. Am I not?
You're right, Mark. You're right. I would like to bring yet another dimension of what Ukrainians proved. They are fighting war of 21st century,
Right.
using drones, AI, and they are basically proved that it's a winning strategy. They are building up to 7 million drones a year. They're going to bring next year, actually early next year, drones that can fly up to 10,000 kilometers. So therefore, all Russian territory, regardless how big it is, they can reach any point of the territory.
7 million drones, which is incredible, right? I mean,
It is. So now I have this question. So U.S. military now asking for additional $500 billion. What are they gonna do with this money? Was it gonna build some next avia carriers, or is it gonna build the next B-2 bombers, or what something else? Or they are going to order more steak and lobster dinners for their personnel? What is this money for? Because Ukrainians, for a fraction of this budget, they're building absolutely incredible army of drones and AI, and they can fight any war anywhere in the world. So what is US doing? So they're bringing down their people. They will not be able to sustain even the present standard of living, so it will go yet more down. So how you can allow this to happen to your country?
Well, one of the things that's going on, and I don't know your thoughts around this, but there was an article, I think it was in MSN or something like that. But apparently, Donald Trump is facing mounting backlash in the battleground states. So you follow and you've actually run campaigns, Steve. But they're saying that this could decide the November midterm election because there's a lot of frustrated voters that are calling his decision to go to war with Iran, quote unquote, absolutely stupid. So the war launched without congressional authorization has been historically unpopular, and support has stayed below 40% since the U.S. and Israel began strikes on February 28th, well below the early backing for wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. And now voters in the key swing states told The Guardian, that's actually where the article was originally at, they still do not understand why Trump entered the conflict and fear it could spiral into, quote unquote, another endless war. So what is our thoughts around the fact that he is losing support, and even some of these people that were behind him? Matter of fact, there's a gentleman, Terrence Dahlman, that is quoted. He's a 73-year-old retired voter from Wisconsin, and he called the U.S. involvement a huge mistake. We weren't provoked into that fight, and we weren't attacked. I saw no reason to go there other than possibly controlling all oil somehow.
well, let me tell you that President Bill Clinton once said it's the economy stupid, and I think these wars, any war that you go into, whether you attack Venezuela, whether now the Iran war, it's got global economic consequences and also domestic consequences, particularly energy prices. And I think in the United States of America, we're seeing the continued rise of costs, housing costs, education costs, and so a war isn't doing anything to address what I call kitchen table issues, right? And this is continuing to be a problem in the United States. So it doesn't surprise me that this is a perfect issue for Democrats to run on, but I hope that they can get away from the left-wing socialist issues and focus as well on these kitchen table issues in terms of the policies of getting back to a United States of America where we're focusing on these issues. I would be curious as to, I've got about 10 minutes before I head out. Today, Louisville got the All-America City Award, and I've been invited to say where, but I'd like to get some perspectives around, because we're fighting these two wars, and it's amazing, right? So.
Well, I think, Steve, I think it's a little bit bigger than just fighting with Iran. First of all, the fight with Iran is all over. U.S. lost its war against Iran.
Right.
It has to now retreat. It has to forget about Middle East and all the oil riches and everything else, because the countries of the Gulf, they don't want U.S. to be there anymore, because U.S. cannot protect their own military bases. They're all now being evacuated from there. So they're saying, look, you cannot protect your own military bases. So you cannot protect our countries, period. So get the hell out of here, and we will negotiate with Iran how to conduct our business and how to live in the future. Okay?
Right.
So whether it's happened or not, and when it's happened, we'll see. But another problem is, as what I discussed with you earlier today, is that Ukraine now attacked 2 Iranian ships in the Caspian Sea. They were destroyed. So now Iran is furious, and they want to try to get revenge over Ukraine. And I don't know if they have capacity to do so, but we will see about that. So now that brings U.S. close to Ukraine, because Ukraine actually brought the quite substantial damage to Iran and Russia as well. Russia, as we know, Russia is an ally of Iran, same as China. And China made it very open and very clear that they will support Iran, that Iran is their strategic partner. So in case of U.S. invasion of Iran, China will get involved right away, and Russia as well. So that's incapacitated U.S. Possibilities to for invasion.
Yeah, and I think that before I leave, I mean, I think I'm going to stay for 10 more minutes, and I will stay for the whole show next week.
Yeah.
But the reality is that I think we also have to look at, democracy. Why is it that democracy doesn't succeed after the United States invades these countries? And I'll tell you, it's advanced citizenship. Like Andy Shepard said in The American President, played by Michael Douglas. America has always worked because you have competing beliefs and you have to work hard, but the institutions have the democracy be strong. What they call a lot of these democracies now is illiberal democracies. They want a strong state because authoritarianism and dictatorship can be clean in terms of we don't need to hear disagreement. You're all gonna do. And Sasha, you grew up in the former Soviet Union, right? I mean, you're
Yes.
Ukrainian, but I think the reality is that there's no answer to this. Just because you put in soldiers and you invade, the other part of the battle is that, this didn't work in Iraq, it didn't work in Afghanistan, and now they're trying it again in Iran. And even William McRaven, who I'd like to reach out to bring on the show, he was an admiral, the longest serving SEAL admiral in the Navy, overseeing the SEALs, and was the guy that took out Bin Laden. We're doing it all wrong. Diplomacy is just thrown out the door under this president.
And diplomacy's been thrown out the door, but just really quickly, Sasha, because you brought it up earlier, Steve, you talked about the feeling of the left wing of the Democratic Socialists, but there were some people who would argue that the Republicans are doing the same thing. Because actually, there was an article that came out earlier today where Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch is not a friend of Christian nationalism. So, in an interview with PBS over the weekend, he refuted the belief expressed by a growing number of politicians on the right, including Vice President J.D. Vance, that America was founded as a Christian nation and that therefore the Bible should influence politics and policy. He says we were founded, a lot of our colonies, for religious pluralism, right? And the opportunity to practice your own faith in your own way is what he told PBS's Margaret Hoover. And we were never supposed to be a nation that was about one race or one religion. It was about those ideas, and those things are perfect ideas that speak to every human heart and to unite us all. He said any notion to the contrary, he said, is simply incorrect. I mean, it's demonstratively not true that we came from the same religion. He pointed to the Amish who settled much of Pennsylvania and the Quakers as distinctly separate groups in his interview and everything like that. So he means that we have the First Amendment, for crying out loud. He emphasized no established religion. Everybody has freedom of religion. Everybody has freedom of speech. We are all equal under law. So apparently conservatives like J.D. Vance and Kevin Roberts have recently asserted America was founded as a Christian nation. But like I said, apparently the Chief Justice or one of the nation's justice is severely disagreeing. So what is your thoughts around that? Because I don't think it's just on the Democratic side. I think it's on both sides that these kind of like far-sided opinions have become the norm.
I don't understand why you are mixing Christianity and democracy. They are two completely different issues, and there is no common ground between Christianity and democracy. In fact, democracy is a very, to tell the truth, very difficult issue to discuss, because I'm not aware of any real democracy in the world in the last 5,000 years. And I don't think that U.S. is a country of democracy as we see it today. And I don't see any other country in the world when there is democracy. In fact, for many countries, including, for example, Middle East, democracy is oxymoron, and it's simply impossible to implement. And whoever
but both of your points, I know you got to get ready to leave, Steve. But your points that the religious liberty Liberty Commission, which was formed by the Trump administration last year, outlined a series of recommendations aimed at increasing the role of religion in government, schools, and public life. So I hear what you're saying, Sasha, but apparently this administration is actually trying to go against that. So it also encouraged the administration to repeal the Johnson Amendment, which is a provision in the U.S. tax code that prohibits nonprofits, including religious institutions and charities, from participating in political activities. So it sounds like they're trying to blur the line between religion and democracy and everything like that. So that's
well, no, let me take. I want to close the show out with some things to think about before we begin next week, and I'd like to get your opinions on it. But I think next week we're not going to have time today. I do want to talk about China and the U.S. Break it down into where are the areas of maybe collaboration, where are the areas of concern, in terms of their alliances around the world. What does these current things we're talking about deal with global alliances? But let's take a shot at. I really like what Sasha Starr said, and I think what you were trying to say, Sasha, but this is the tenet of American democracy, is a separation of church and state.
yes.
We tried this in the 1960s when John F. Kennedy, they didn't want to be a president because he was a Catholic, and he ended up winning the presidency. But the reality is America's strength is the diversity of our nation. And, for people to say, yes, the majority of Americans are Christian, correct. But it should have no tenet on someone that's coming to America to try to succeed. There are Hindus, like my faith. Now, I'm not an Orthodox Hindu, but there are Hindus who grew up in India and today run the three big tech. IBM, Arvind Krishnan, Satya Nadella, the chairman and CEO of Microsoft, and Sundar Pichai, the CEO and chairman of Google, Meta. So, the reality is that these were people that were Hindu and they came to America to bring their ideas. And the same can be said for Canada as well. Canada's done very well, very diverse nation. So I think it's ludicrous for any party to come in and say, we're a Christian nation. We're not a Christian nation. This is the United States of America. And it's run by Jewish leaders who serve in all capacities, Christians, Muslims, Indians, Baha'i. These are the people that make this country. And so for me, it's nationalistic politics. It works. Modi's doing this in India, the Hindutva, the Hindu state. It nationalizes it. It makes it easy to bring people together, right? Let's divide. That's what this is about.
Agree.
I want to close out with. I'm just curious, but in my question is, and I want to know what I want to start with Sasha Starr. What would you like to see America's role in the world? What do you think America's role in the world should be? Should it be leadership? Should it be alliances? What do you want to see from our country, even though you're Ukrainian immigrant living in Canada?
Okay. First of all, you are talking, I would assume, about today's America, because America of the 50s, 70s, 90s, 2010 even, is a different country from what it is today. Because of Trump, derailed the all policies, international policies, which were introduced by United States since the end of Second World War, and it was very successful policy which brought America to zenith of its power. Trump single-handedly, with support from his cabinet, from his cronies, destroyed that. Today, America is no longer a world power. Let's just agree with that. If that's the case, America has to retreat back from Middle East, from Europe, from wherever it is. Just retreat, get back. Build your own country. Build the economy, build the infrastructure, make life of American citizens better, richer. Then that's what is America about to do. They will not be able to resume its absolute power, which it had prior to Trump. Trump destroyed it. Now, time to fix it.
Sasha has been on point today. I'm going to give him an A-, B+, maybe an A. You have really delivered today as an analyst. I'm going to leave with you, Mark. Your thoughts on America's role in the world.
I mean, America, definitely I agree with Sasha. It needs to get back to the issues that are important. as you
He
call them,
froze.
the kitchen table issues and address things that are important to be addressed here. We got folks here that can't do their own economy and their own funding and things along those lines. So we definitely need to do a better job of making sure that people can have food in their tables and all along those lines. So that's something that we definitely need to do on a regular basis. So I think we need to focus on things here in our own country and not necessarily worry about what's going on in other parts of the world until we get our own act together.
Sasha, last point before I head into my car.
Last point before I finish our show.
No, well,
I was following the Democratic Party platform and what they're offering and what to offer and so on. So now, before just months, 2 months ago, my thinking was that the Republican Party is losing all its points and it's going to do poorly in midterm election. And for Democrats to proceed, it's just enough to make a centrist platform, get middle-of-the-road politician, and unite about that, and they will defeat Republicans. I think it's quite true, but now the Republicans' position became so weak, look at the recent polls, that I think even if Democrats will proceed with so-called socialist agenda like Mandami and some other like Ocasio-Cortez or so on, this agenda, their centrist platform, they will still succeed. So now I'm trying to figure out what is better.
Well, it's been a wonderful 30 minutes. You guys can continue, but thank you.
No, I have to go too. I hope I'm
Hey,
doing
a good Sasha, job as a before you leave-
moderator. It's good to be running
Yeah.
the show. I'm enjoying this very much.
Yeah, you're doing a great job, Sasha. Before you leave and everything like that, because we will have modern investment on tomorrow and everything along those lines. But I did have a question for you, just really quickly, because I did see that FIFA is talking about putting out public shares, which we know is who ran the World Cup, and we know that the head of FIFA is a friend of Trump's. There's actually even, I think he's being called in front of Congress to talk about his role with Trump. But I was just wondering your thoughts as one that follows soccer about this notion of FIFA being sold publicly, because that's something that I just saw recently, and I didn't know your thoughts around this notion of FIFA being sold as a public stock.
That's an interesting thought. FIFA became lately a very powerful organization. And why is it powerful? Follow the money. FIFA made $15 billion in this World Championship and will make maybe even more next championship, because it will be more team, it will be on 2 continents, and so on and on and on. When such serious money is being involved, then you want this organization to run properly, business-like, and have appropriate governing body and so on. See, what's difficult about FIFA is that essentially such organization, for example, like European UEFA, European Football Association, in fact, guess what, is more powerful than FIFA. Much more powerful, because all the richest clubs, richest countries in soccer, they're all in Europe. The European Cup for club teams is the most spectacular show, much bigger show than this World Cup. You see, think about the World Cup. Okay, it's once every 4 years. So you get teams, you pick up the best players wherever you can find them. Okay, so you have a few practices together, and then you put them and they're playing together, say a few matches until they're kicked out. So there we are talking about this 4 or 5 matches maximum or so on, and only the best 4 teams are coming to semifinals, and they're playing for a third place and first place. For a third place, it was Clowns game, 6-4, and the final was absolutely incredible game where Argentina made absolutely heroic showing, in spite of the fact that everybody hates Argentina and won't disqualify them and all that stuff. Think about that against the best team in the world, Spain. Argentina was playing with a 10 men for 105 minutes. Nobody could withstand against Spain 90 minutes, and Argentina did with a 10-man left. And only after that, Spain was able to score a goal. And although I recognize that Spain was an incredibly strong team, and probably they deserved to win that. But think about that: if they wouldn't score that goal, the game would go into penalty shoots,
Right.
and in penalty shoots, Argentina would destroy Spain with all that. So Argentina was very close actually to win gold medals, but they didn't, and that's the case. Now the clubs in Europe, there are enormous amount of incredibly strong clubs, and the top clubs, say Manchester United, say PSG, say Bavaria, say Real, Barcelona. I mean, I can count easily 10 teams, each of them much stronger than any national team in the world, because they're not limited to the national players. They are unlimited resources. They can buy almost any player they wish, and they are making the teams according to their head coach project. So he wants to have this line of defenders. So, okay, this guy from France, he's good. Okay, buy me that guy. This guy in Germany, he's pretty good. Okay, get him here. Okay, pay him $150 million. I don't know. So this football is much richer. It's much more pleasure to watch. So this World Cup is basically just a machine to make money for FIFA. But I don't mind that as long as FIFA runs properly. The way FIFA runs today, it's better if it wouldn't exist. That's my opinion.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And I did hear that there are some countries that are trying to ban Argentina. I know that you're a fan of the team and everything because they were feeling that they were not sportsmanlike in their way that they lost and everything like that. But I think that that's a little bit too radical to be trying to ban an entire country, and particularly a country that's got messy and looks like they were having a very noble effort to win the game and they had been the previous champion. So I, for one, am not a fan of banning the entire team, but I did see that that's something that they were trying to do, was get rid of the entire Argentina team and not allow them to compete in the next World Cup, which would be 2030.
Okay, first of all, Argentina, although their play may look like it's rough play and too physical, maybe, remember that it's not a ballet, it's a soccer, it's a sport. And Argentina did everything within the rules of soccer. It's in South America, it's rougher. It's much different games than even in Europe or any other country. I know because I was betting on some soccer games in South America, and so many games they're not even being played until the end because there were brawls right during the game. So the game would be adjourned for months or maybe even 6 months. You never know. So this is the nature of the game. It's a fight. It's a sport. It's not a ballet. So if Argentina plays that type of soccer, it's allowed within the rules. And if you want to punish the country because it follows the rules, well, be my guest. About the 1930 or 2030 soccer, well, it's 100 years since the first soccer championship was ever
Right.
played in the 1930. Okay, you want to increase it to what, 64 teams, 128 teams, 355 teams? Be my guest, do it and play that soccer will be going on for a year and a half non-stop. They will be playing and playing and playing until people get tired of that nonsense. Just go to hell with your sport. You don't need that. Bye bye.
No, I agree with you. Good. No, I agree with you. We get ready to wrap up and everything like that because if they do that many teams, then it might start on January 1st, 1930 and not end till December 31st. So I agree that if they got too many teams, that thing could go on forever and a day and it might take a whole year to complete it and everything like that. So I'm
I'll help
perfectly
you.
fine.
You know what? I'll help you to make it even more attractive. Get certain teams. First, we'll start with the top teams like France and Spain and others and so on. have them to field two teams, not just one, but two teams, and maybe even three teams. And let them play, and some other teams only two teams, and the weak teams allow them to have only one team instead of two or three, and let them play. Okay, they will be stop playing anywhere else because they will be busy with championship. People will quit their jobs to follow all those matches on TV and travel and so on. Just do just that until people will tell you just go to hell. Okay. But
I
thank you,
think
Mark. I have to go.
no, we're going to wrap up. I thoroughly appreciate both you and Steve. So I'm going to
Thank
put
you.
the ending part on, but it was a great show and thoroughly enjoyed having you and Steve on World Politics. And we've got actually the show about education, which is the Mama Noni show, coming up at 6 o'clock, and other shows here on Pod TV as well. But I will see you tomorrow for World Edition as well as for Modern Investment. But always great to see you and always great to catch you. So let's get on out of here.
Thank you, Mark. Bye bye.
Bye bye.